Okay, so my name is Shannon, and I am an admissions counselor and recruitment officer. We have people joining us online, so welcome to those online. The mic that I have in my hand right now is actually going to pick up on the teams online, so we're going to be passing it down the line to our folks as they're chatting. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Raise your hand here if you're in person. I might restate the question so people online hear what it was, and then for people that are online, feel free to ask a question in the chat. Oh, it says that they can't hear anything. Okay, we might have technical difficulties already. It's on. That one's the one for just the room.
But it's not supposed to be. It is supposed to be.
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me online now? Yay. Okay, so back to what I was saying. We're just going to say it again. Yeah, okay, we're good. So for the people that are here in person, if you have questions, raise your hand. I will restate your questions so the people online can hear. For the people online, just type your questions in the chat and then we will be able to read them off. So first up, I'm going to hand the mic over to Rebecca Lehman, who is the Director of Experiential Learning. And yeah, we've got some lovely guests with us that she will introduce.
Okay, so the microphone isn't going to help with my nerves, but it's wonderful to see you all here today. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Rebecca Lehman. I'm the Director of Experiential Learning and Career Development here at Mount A. Before we get started for sessions like this, we tend to take a moment to acknowledge our presence on unceded ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq. Our responsibility and privilege to live, work, and learn in this land was agreed to upon the Peace and Friendship Treaty of 1752, and we all have a responsibility to respect this territory and care for it for future generations. So welcome folks who are coming in. I am not going to spend the whole time talking by myself. I have guests here with me today. I'll let them introduce themselves in more depth, but we have Dr. Susie Andrews, Dr. Leslie Shunko, who stepped out for a moment, Paige Meissner, who is here, Kennedy Rai, and Pushkarash Jadhav. The last three are students who have amazing stories to tell you. So I'm going to try to go really quickly because they're more interesting than I am. Essentially on the screens, I just want to point out our slideshow that we have rotating through. You can kind of keep an eye on those, but these are examples of experiential learning and career development opportunities that we offer at Mount A. Just a small, like, kind of selection we thought would be kind of colorful to have running in the background, but it showcases a bit of the diverse types of learning and career experiences that you can get here at Mount A. So we're here to chat about experiential learning, which is a type of hands-on learning that lets you put your academic knowledge that you're building in your classes to the test in the real world. It lets you kind of feel out ways that you can impact the community around you. So it gets you off campus, gets you asking important questions, and kind of figuring out, you know, what's the point of this education that I'm getting. Mount A has always been really proud of the experiential learning and hands-on nature of our education. We have small class sizes, which I'm sure you've all heard about. It means, for example, if you're a science student, you're in the lab in your first year doing experiences. You're working directly with faculty on their research. You're getting the opportunities that you might not get in a big school. Other types of experiential learning could include our music or fine arts or drama programs, creative activity, performance, those kinds of things. They're experiential. You're putting into practice something that you're really passionate about, learning more about. A commerce program, for example, has always been really engaged with the business community with case competitions, simulations, pitch competitions, internships. So these are all different types of experiential learning. It's kind of a trendy term, which really just means you're taking what you're learning in the class and you're figuring out what you want to do with it in the real world. The other thing that is growing on campus are co-curricular opportunities. So things like internships, which you'll see some pop up on the screen and our students will talk about a bit more. So these are outside the classroom opportunities, so full-time paid internships, working with organizations that you're interested in getting experience with. I'll talk more about that in a moment. So I would love to know a bit more about who's in the room. This crowd is like 10 times bigger than the last session, which is wonderful. Do you know what you want to study at Mount A? Could you give me a show of hands if you are studying commerce or you're interested in studying commerce? Yeah, a couple of commerce students. How about science? Anybody in here interested in the science program? Oh, yeah. Okay, awesome. What about like social science, like political science, economics, psych? Yeah, a couple. Awesome. Humanities, languages, history, that kind of thing. Less certain. Music. Yeah, fine arts. Cool, amazing. Undecided, which is a totally acceptable way to be. Yeah, okay, awesome. One more show of hands. If you know what you want to study, you're like, I'm going to be a commerce student, I'm going to be a science student. Is it because you know what career you want? Like, I'm going to be a doctor, so I need to study this. Is that why you've chosen your degree? Yeah, a few people. Okay. And how many are you just passionate about this topic and this is what I'm going to study and I'll figure it out later? Okay. Awesome. I love those students. No, that's great. I find it really fascinating. We all have different approaches to how we, decide what we want to study and what we want to do and what we're passionate about. I've been working in career development at Mount A for 12 years. And so I have seen students at every stage of their degree trying to figure out, what am I going to do with this? What am I passionate about? And so experiential learning is kind of a fascinating way that you're going to be able to figure it out. And you may not even know that you're doing experiential learning at the time. It's just going to be those creative classes, those innovative opportunities to connect with researchers, or those really wonderful international field experiences that come up and you're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And it's making a difference. So you'll hear some of those stories from our students who after the last session figured out, oh wait, I've been doing a lot more experiential learning than I thought. So love that. Yeah. We are really proud of what happens in our classrooms for our students and the different opportunities that are available for you. But my office, my unit, Experiential Learning and Career Development, is actually located over in the Student Center. So if you haven't done your tour yet, you'll see us over there. We are kind of outside the academic, side of things, even though we work with them very closely. So we are Experiential Learning and Career Development. We have an office over there, and I have a whole team that supports students who are interested in exploring what they want to do for a career. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the services that we provide. Not that I expect you to remember from now until September, but just if you come out with nothing else, just know that we exist and we are there, and that we work individually with students to help you figure out your career goals. So there's kind of 4 pillars of what we do, I would suggest. The first one is our career development activities. So like most university campuses, we have career services staff. We do career weeks and career fairs. We do resume writing and interview prep. We support students who are applying for grad school or med school. We do a lot of work that way, helping you kind of like figure out what career path you want to be on. We have recruiters that come to campus regularly, and so we coordinate those visits as well. There's a lot that happens on the career side of the house. I would suggest that the second really important pillar of what we do, and something that I'm really passionate about, is internships. Has anybody heard of internships before? Have a sense what they might be? So at Mount A, we have a kind of a unique approach to internships in that they're completely interdisciplinary. They're available to students from all degree programs, so no matter what you're studying. They're a bit of our answer to like co-op programs, except they're much more flexible, they're much more student-driven, and personalized. So we place students in organizations where they're going to get the mentorship and the experience that they need to be able to kind of connect what they're studying and what they're interested in with real professional skills. So last year, for example, we had 200 internships run through our office. So we had 200 Mount A students out in the world doing stuff, and in every field. So from healthcare to social work to education, science research, lots of community development stuff in rural New Brunswick, which is where we're located. So we do a lot of that, which is amazing experience. International experience, for example, Claire on the screen right now designed her own internship and ended up in New York with a not-for-profit organization doing a presentation at the UN. So you never know, and we'll hear some of that as well. The third pillar of what our office does is entrepreneurship. So we're starting to get a lot more intentional about how we support innovative projects and entrepreneurship projects for students. So if you've ever had the spark of an idea or thought, I'd like to play with entrepreneurship a little bit, maybe I have a business idea, maybe I just want to learn how to pitch really well. We do a lot of programming around entrepreneurship, and it's interdisciplinary. We, of course, work closely with commerce, but we have tons of science students and art students and folks from all over who can play in the field of entrepreneurship. So it's really fun. We have funding for startups. In the summer, we just finished our adjudication this week, so we're going to have, I think, 12 or 15 projects working on student projects. We're going to have a business coach, mentors, and funding this summer to work on their entrepreneurship projects. So just another fun way of getting involved. The final pillar I would suggest we do in our office in experiential learning career development is we support faculty who are developing new community partnerships and new ways of connecting experiential learning opportunities and kind of career development. So I won't speak too much about that because I have a couple of faculty members here with me today who are going to give examples of what they do in their classrooms. And I think they're just a couple of amazing examples of the dozens and dozens of ways that students at Mount A kind of run into hands-on experiences without even thinking about it. It's in every degree program. It's in every department now, I would suggest. And so it's something we're really proud of and that we're excited to keep growing because it connects you to what you want to make an impact on in the world. So I'll let Dr. Andrews go first.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you for this opportunity to speak about the topic that makes me tick. I'm Susie Andrews, and I'm a faculty member at Mount Allison University. As you know, I'm co-coordinating our Thrive program, and it is for you to empower you to think through how your liberal arts and sciences learning matters through your degree and beyond. And I teach in our religious studies program courses like death and religion, food and religion, or for example, our Kyoto-based field school Religions of Japan program that I think Paige might say a little more about. And before sharing with you two examples of the kind of transformative work we do, maybe I will just share why it is something that makes me tick and why it's something I'm excited for you to enjoy during your time here at Mount A. Maybe you are a biochem music student. Maybe you are a commerce international relations student. It doesn't matter what courses you take as the sort of main plot line of your story. You are welcome in all of these experiences. And for me, they're so meaningful for two reasons. First, I was a Mount A student. My first degree is from this university, and my life looks very different because of my first experiential learning opportunity in East Asia. I traveled with my professor to Hangzhou, China, and the before and after that is something I will tell you 7 years down the line or in September. But the point is, this matters to me because it has mattered significantly in my life. It matters also because the experience of learning in community, locally or around the globe, has changed me. I have felt what it is like to learn with students at Bagtown Brewery about how our learning in religion and food matters, right? I know what it feels like to, you might have seen the image of Brenna Quen studying traditional Chinese medicine in central China. It is empowering, exciting, always very messy. It never goes quite as I imagine, and it is always surpassing my hopes and dreams, but that is the why of it. The how, two ways that this has happened, it might make sense to share, for example, the field school programs around the globe for a number of years. I've been part of it. I've actually co-directed a 2.5 million with 20 million matching fund SHIRK from the ground up project. That is very closely related to most of the research that I publish. And it has meant students have been able to apply what they learned about, say, GIS in environmental science or biology or gender studies work to be around the globe learning in communities, whether in orphanages outside of Beijing, in North China, or in Taiwan, studying, mapping the sacred landscape. This is one form it might take. Another closer to home that we'll build on in the fall in our Thrive program, wicked problems. When we do this, all of you, right, will decide with whom you feel you can partner most meaningfully, nonprofit, government, or for-profit organizations. But the form it might take could be like our work with local preschools. There are 5 designated New Brunswick Early Learning Centers in the Tantramar, and my students in Sacred Stuff and Religion and Children and I work with those schools to imagine curriculum that lets more folks see themselves in the learning we do. And so we create these very colorful, engaging learning invitations, and the students spend each week throughout the term learning with 2, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds in our community. That's one very tangible form it takes. Another option would be, and this will be the last thing I say, are any of you from Ottawa? Okay, are there folks who might want to come with me? We have a fully funded, thank you, fully funded Sewell iHub program based in the Canadian Museum of History. So in that special A term, the last week of August, students from Mount A, there are no prerequisites for this course, can join me for a week learning in the museum with curators, researchers, Marcom people, and what do you call it? Oh, educators around objects. All of us will have our own objects for the week. We will stay in a hotel right across the street. Our flights are covered. Every student receives a stipend. And we do this work co-designed with global experts right in the heart. There's 4 million objects in that collection, and we're not only right in the museum, they've given us a classroom, but then there's a 7-floor building right next door that no one can go in, but we can. And that's where our objects are from. There's even Wonder Bread bags because that's the future history collection. What am I trying to say? Tried to give you a sense of why it matters to me, some of the concrete ways you will do it too, and then just to tell you it's for you. It is for you. So we look so forward to doing it together.
Good morning, everybody. Really pleased to see so many people at this session compared to the last one, which was very, very small. So my name is Leslie Shumka. I teach in the Community Engaged Learning Program. And, oh, sorry about that. So I teach in the Community Engaged Learning Program, which is a form of experiential learning, but it's really about working in the community. So while there are lots of opportunities on campus for you to have an international experience, in my department, we tend to focus on the local. And one of the reasons for that is that the kind of learning that we do in community engagement is really about community. It's about you as bright, skilled individuals coming to Mount A and thinking about how you might be able to make a contribution in the local community. So in our department, in the Community Engaged Learning Program, we're interested in social justice issues. If you see yourself perhaps as a change agent, or you want to become a change agent, please come and visit our program, or come and talk to some of the people in our department who actually teach in this program. So some of the things that we do is we partner with different schools in the area. So we have a very healthy and thriving partnership with the middle school here in town, a smaller school out in Port Elgin. And our students spend, I'll give you an example of what a semester might look like. The first 3 weeks of the semester, we talk about what community engaged learning is. We talk about the values and the skills that are needed to do this kind of work. We talk about the project that you will run. And then for 9 weeks, every week, you work in the community, in one of the community schools. So does this mean you have to be going into teaching? It absolutely does not. What is it that you're interested in? Are you interested in talking to kids? Do you like working with kids? Do you want to talk to them about climate change? Is that something that you're worried about? I know I am. And so these are the kinds of things that we do in the schools through project work, is we teach the kids about climate change. And these are subjects that they don't have time to necessarily learn about as part of their daily curriculum. So we come in and we run projects, or the students, my students do, and they run the gamut. You don't have to be, as I say, interested in going into education necessarily, or you might be from sciences. That's perfectly fine. Come one, come all is our motto. And what we ask you to do is take the knowledge that you have and the interests and the passions that you have. So maybe it is for climate change. Maybe it's for chemistry. Maybe it's for one of the other sciences, environmental science. And think about how you could possibly use those skills in teaching and working with kids in the community. So we have teaching as one of the kind of main areas in which we work in the community. And the point is that we always partner with people who need us, who need help from us. So they identify the need, and then they say, what can you offer us? What can you help us with? So that's where we start, going through the class. We do an audit. We say, who's got skills in this area? Who's got skills in this area? Who is interested in running a project on renewable energy with the kids? So for example, that was one of the projects one of our students ran last fall. They created a project around renewable energy, and they took a group of students from Marshview Middle School here in town out to the wind farm over in Amherst. So they do field trips, they do other activities. So it's all about educating younger students. And at the same time that you're educating younger students, you're learning a lot about yourself, and you're learning about what you're passionate about and where you see yourself if you're interested in social justice or creating a social change. Okay. Just a couple more examples of things that you can do. We had an entrepreneurship student who was in the commerce program here work with a program called Power Play for young entrepreneurs. And he basically taught a group of grade 8 students how to become entrepreneurs. And he had the time of his life, and he taught the kids, you got to develop a product. What's that product going to look like? How are you going to make it? What's it going to cost? They developed marketing plans, marketing strategies. They did their research. They did market research. And in the end of the program, they had a huge market where these kids sold the products that they had developed. And it was just astounding to see how excited they were, because they were using skills that were being taught in school, but they were learning new skills. And through learning those new skills, this student helped the younger kids become more confident. And not to mention the fact that they're all into it because you can make money at it. So we've got a big lineup of students at the school wanting to get into the next iteration of this entrepreneurship program. So again, the emphasis is on community. What do you want to contribute to your community? What do you think you can contribute? And what I often find in the beginning is that students feel they don't have anything to contribute. And by the end of one semester, they've figured out that they do actually have a lot. You have skills that you can put to work in this community to make an impact. And I think it's a really great way to also get to know this community in the 4 years that you're here, or 5 sometimes, depending on how your programs go. So I'll just leave you with that thought. If you're interested in community engaged learning, by all means, contact our program director. There's all kinds of information on a university website about it. Happy to talk to you at any point about other projects that you can work on. You don't have to just be into education. You can be into climate change, entrepreneurship, as I said, or something completely different. Okay? All right.
Thank you, Leslie. So hopefully you kind of got from that there's, it's interdisciplinary. There's a chance to kind of jump in and explore at any point during your degree here at Mount A, and what you do is going to make an impact. I'm bringing the mic down to Pushkarash. I'll let him go first. So a student, you can introduce yourself. He's better than I am.
It's always nerve-wracking to go first. Yeah, so I'm a fourth-year student at Mount Allison, and I'm studying Bachelor of Arts, major in Commerce, and a minor in Computer Science and Economics. And I've had a long relationship with the Experiential Learning Department here at Mount A, and it's been some of my the highlights of my university life have been with the experiential learning department. So starting with internships, I think I did 2 internships with the experiential learning department. One of them was with the residence life here at Mount A itself. And I did some marketing and some other project management stuff for the residence life. So that was a great experience. And now I'm actually working at Mount A as an admissions officer. So that kind of like was a stepping stone for me to see how the life at Mount A is and how the administrative functions of Mount A are. So like I'm working at Mount A right now, but the other internship I did was more related to my degree. So I did a business support internship with an organization called FutureLink in Moncton. And I got to work with a lot of small local businesses and help them with their business development, help them find grants and do marketing, financing, and a lot of other stuff for them. But my main highlight, like my main personal highlights were I'm really into entrepreneurship. Like I came to Mount A and as a comp sci student, never thinking I was going to go into commerce, but I decided that I want to do entrepreneurship when I graduate. So I got to do the Reisman internship twice at Mount A, which is basically you get awarded a certain amount of money to work on a business idea that you want to develop, as Rebecca pointed out. So I had an idea on starting an Indian food delivery service in Sackville, and I was running that business for a year. And then I found out about the internship, so I applied for that, and I got $10,000 over the summer to work on the business and develop it. So I was able to get my licensing done. I had a small team that was working on the business as well, and it was a great experience. And the following summer, I started another project through the entrepreneurship course at Mount Allison. It happens usually in the winter, and basically the concept of the course is there's a group of students that have to start a business in the span of 4 months. You can start whatever business you want. You have to finance it yourself, or you have to get a loan. And then at the end of this course, you have to have the business established and maybe make profits, and the business is all yours. So we started it last year in winter to the entrepreneurship course, and it was called SIP Sackville. So it was a physical food and beverage location in Sackville that we rented out a space from scratch. We painted it, built our own furniture, got all the equipment in, financed it, and launched it in 3 months, I think. So that was a great experience, and we were able to pay off our loan in the first 2 weeks. And as soon as the course was over, I applied for the Reisman internship again, and then I got the launch internship, which was basically to run that business. I got $15,000 for that summer, which was amazing. We ran the business for 8 months, and it just closed last November because I was again a student. We had to get back to schoolwork, but it was an amazing experience. So those are some of my highlights. And one other thing was I did a business of aviation course where we got a SUL funding as well, where all of the students were taken to Calgary to the WestJet facility. So it was all expenses paid for. There was like 30, 35, 40 students in the course. All of us we went to Calgary to visit the WestJet facility and see how half of them were aviation students, so they got to see the aviation aspect of it. And I was a business student, so I got to see how the WestJet facility actually works, their marketing, their financing, their business development strategies, got to meet people who are working there, network with them, and kind of create those connections. So that was a great experience for me as well. So yeah, that's my part.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name's Kennedy. I'm a 4th year bio major. I'm double minoring in psychology and Indigenous environmental studies with a certificate in Mi'kmaq studies. And I'm one of those students that Rebecca mentioned where in this earlier presentation we gave, I was like, wow, I have a lot of experiential learning opportunities that I didn't even think about. So I guess she mentioned that science students get a lot of hands-on lab work. So like within my first week at Mount A as a first year student, I was in the lab working in like chem and bio, and I still do that up to this day, where it's very kind of like, I would say you have a lot of freedom with what you do in the lab, and it's very hands-on. So I loved that for getting that experience. For the internship side, this past summer and through the fall and winter semesters, I was an internship at Bagtown Brewery here in Sackville, which was started in 2015 through the entrepreneurship class, like PJs. So like I always think that it's crazy that it was started as students. Now 8 years later, it's full-fledged business in Sackville. So I was a production intern, so I actually made the beer, which was pretty cool. And so I had a lot of experiences through that. We like toured larger facilities because we're just a very small brewery. Recently, I went up to Grand Falls, New Brunswick, did some brewery training up there, and most recently, I'll be working in the microbiology lab at Mount A with a professor to kind of study yeast samples and things like that, which will probably be able to turn into an independent study next year. I'm doing 5 years here, so that's a really cool opportunity. Dr. Andrews mentioned something like an A-term course. So that is the last week in August, and it's usually you only take one course because it's full time. I took an A-term course this past August in Elsbuktuk First Nation. It was a community engaged learning course, like Dr. Shumka teaches, and it was really cool. What I really liked about it is the tuition for that is included in your fall tuition, so it's no extra money if you're taking a full course load already. Plus, there were stipends for it for like the travel getting up there. And I had a budget because I was creating a project, which coincidentally I'll be probably implementing this summer because I'm doing a design your own internship up in Elsbuktuk First Nation again. And a design your own internship is when you approach a business and you ask them, you're like, hey, I'm really into this. So I'm working for the Education Authority because I want to be a teacher. And for them, it's essentially a volunteer. They don't have to pay me at all. So I approached them. I was like, hey, will you host me and will you give me work to do this summer? And they were like, yeah, for sure. So you apply through the Experiential Mount A website. Very easy. I was like completely overthinking it. I was in Rebecca's office 3 times in 1 week and she was like, Kennedy, calm down. It's not that big of a deal. And I was like, okay. And yeah, so you apply for funding and then it's all funded through Mount A and you work with the business of your choice. So I'm working in New Brunswick, but I know a student who is from Newfoundland and he did the same thing and he was looking to work for his local law office in Newfoundland because he wants to be a lawyer and get this experience. So that was really cool. What else? Oh, I'm going on the Galapagos Field School opportunity, which is kind of like the Kyoto Field School. So this is a 2-week program in the end of April and May. And it's either fully funded or partially funded through the Global Skills Opportunity grants. And specifically for my experience in the Galapagos, like this is like kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity because the Galapagos is really hard to get in for research and tourism. And we're going and we're partnering with a university in Quito in Ecuador. And it's just a really cool experience that I never would have had except at Mount A. I think that's all of my experiential learning at Mount A thus far. But yeah, I've kind of fell into it late in my 3rd year, and I really wish I knew about it in my 1st year because a lot of the internships you have to be a returning student to complete. So it kind of lucked out that I'm doing 5 years because I am a returning student, but definitely look into it in your 1st year. And I will say this is going to be scary to all the parents here, but the Sackville summer I did this past summer was my best summer ever. So living in Sackville for the summer is great. If you have the chance to do it, definitely do it. It seems like kind of scary in small town, but it's so much fun. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Paige. Yeah, my voice sounds even more shot in a microphone. Okay. Yes. So I've actually done 5 experiential learning like opportunities so far, which is really cool because I'm only in my 2nd year. My first one I did was in the 2nd semester of my 1st year, and it was a class that I did with Dr. Andrews called Sacred Stuff, in which we like worked with the Canadian Museum of Natural History and we created invitation boxes for the local schools based off like an object we were assigned. My group was assigned this like Mi'kmaq drum and like drumstick set. And so we had to like be inspired by that to create some sort of invitation box that the kids could like learn about like Mi'kmaq history and like culture, etc. through. And so that was really fun. And then this year, I am taking another class with Dr. Andrews right now called Food Practices in Eastern Asian Religions, in which we are completely like CWIL funded as well, which means that all of our books are like paid for us as well. We are stipended for the class. Our food safety training is like given to us as well. And the reason why we are given this is because we work with the community partners and we write like journals to record what we did, and that's kind of like what CWIL like wants back from us so that we can like show that we were engaged in the community. Does that kind of explain it well? Do that. So yeah, okay, there's two of them. And then my third, at like first semester of this year, I did an internship with Dr. Andrews in which one of her classes was like working with different institutions like elementary schools, preschools, etc., from around the community. And so I was helping to facilitate that connection. Like I was helping like handle some of like the criminal record checks, etc., that for like bringing the students to these points of like education, as well as having communication with the people in the institutions so that like we build those connections, which I think is really important as someone who is like from a rural community. When you get to experience the university for, like hands on when you're like a child, then the university becomes a lot more like it seems like something that's more attainable to you as you grow up, and therefore I think you're more likely to go into some sort of post-secondary education. And then this summer, I'm actually going on the Kyoto Field School. So we're going to Japan for 2 weeks, and we're studying religions of Japan. So specifically, we'll be focusing on like Buddhism and Shinto. And then there's one more, and I just happened to forget it. So last week I was in Toronto for a week. And I was doing a global career seminar in Canada through the Cross Cultural College. And like I realized there's a lot of things. So essentially, students from Mount A, KGU, which is our partner school in Japan, U of T, Queens, and Western all get together for a week. And it's a commerce-based week in which we are split into groups and we are partnered with these companies. Mine was the Toronto Japanese Shokokai, which means like Association of Commerce and Industry. And they give us a practical problem they're having, and we have to help solve it. And at the end of it, we get to make presentations, and they choose the best presentation as like the winner of the program. And my presentation actually won. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Paige. The student stories are always what fascinates me the most. So I think, we'll kind of end our presentation there because it's really like, this is your experience. This is, your journey. You haven't even started yet, but you're going to go down paths that you hadn't even considered. You may have come in and thought you were going to be a doctor, and now, you've changed your mind just because of all those unintentional, connections that you're going to make between your education and the community and, what you want to do. So it's super fun. It's really exciting. And I think that Mount A does a really special job of just weaving it in there. It's like it's baked into your education, whether you want to or not, you're going to run into opportunities to put what you're learning into practice. So I guess it's question time. I'll let Shannon moderate that bit.
All right, so I've invited people in the chat to ask questions, but otherwise, people in the room, does anybody have any questions? No? Okay, I will also mention, because we haven't gotten any online, maybe you guys just did a great job at explaining everything. They got a good understanding of what experiential learning looks like. So the next thing that's on our agenda for open house, we have lunch, and then we also have Life at Mount A Fair. Those are split, and so it was dependent on your bracelet, I believe, for which group you're going to be. So if you're going to lunch, when you come out the door here, Jennings is right to our right. So you come out, and it's the big building over there. Life at Mount A Fair is at the PCCA, so the Purdy Crawford Center for the Arts. Just go across the road, and it's the big building on the right. So if nobody has any questions, yeah. Oh, I guess we do have some online that just popped up too. Okay, so it says, will the Thrive program be required for incoming first years, or will it be an elective?
Thank you for that really super question. My name's Susie, if you're wondering who's answering. Absolutely not. It's about empowering folks for whom it feels meaningful. So actually, here's one thing to note. It is far from required. Only 100 students will be able to participate in the pilot project. So for folks online, you reach out and we will send you the one pager I have here with the course code for folks in person on your way out the door. I'm going to give it to you, but you are not required. The thing I find very special about Mount A, we want to hear what matters to you and make it happen. And so it might be that Thrive doesn't fit. You're going to take community engaged learning, biology, and French. And we celebrate you. It's your choice.
Yeah. All right. And there's another question that says, how do you balance being away from classes with the benefits of experiential learning? Is this for a student maybe? Do you want to talk about your experience with balancing it, or?
So a lot of experiential learning happens in the class. Like it's actually part of, you've got to clock into class every day. And so you're going to get, you're going to get that experience in the classroom. But yeah, I might pass it down to the students to talk about, where they found their balance between the classroom stuff and the additional. So the co-curricular, the internships and those kinds of things, which, you decide, choose to invest your time in that. Who would like to talk about balance?
Yeah, so like Rebecca said, most of it is baked into your classes. So most of my classes are structured similar to the like community engaged learning classes. So I'm currently in an Indigenous Studies course, and about like the first 2 weeks, it was in class talking about our partners in community. And since then, I basically haven't had a class like with my professor. We do check-in meetings about every 2 weeks. I email her often because I have a lot of questions. But yeah, Mount A does a pretty good job of using the allotted class time for your work, whether you're in the classroom or not. So for my work, because I'm not having class every week, I'm expected to use those 3 hours to work on my project and meet with my community partner. And it's really kind of student led. So my professor is expecting me to do that and like take that initiative and making sure I'm working on it by myself. And she's like moderating this through our meetings. Similarly, with my internship that I'm currently doing, a lot of the employers know that we're students. A lot of them have been students at Mount A in the past. So I like give my employer my schedule, my class schedule, and I'm like, I can't really like work on Tuesdays and Thursdays because I'm doing this, this, and this. And he's like, yep, no problem. Will Friday mornings work? And even if I like one morning I wake up and I'm like, oh, I have a midterm the next day, I can't come to work. He's like, no problem. We'll just reschedule it for this day. So there is a lot of flexibility. I think maybe PJ wants to talk about it more, or.
Yeah, most of my experiential learning were based on internships. So it was the part-time internships that I did were during the semester, like during the academic year, and it was up to like 15 hours a week. So it was evenly spread out, and the internships that I was doing, even the employers were very understanding in the fact that I have my schoolwork to do as well. So I was able to balance that well. And the reason internships that I did are mainly scheduled over the summer, so you don't have to worry about balancing your academics with it, because they're basically paying you to have a full-time job over the summer, but you either working for yourself or like designing your own internship or something like that. So there I didn't have to technically balance it. So my entire attention was on my internship. Yeah.
Feel free we will stick around for a minute if you want to ask any questions one-on-one of our students and what they're studying and what their choices were. We're just really thankful you were able to join us today.
All right. Thank you, everybody that came in as a guest speaker. And come on up if you have any questions.